Yeah, dude, let's jump into this. If you're good, let's talk about Bitcoin because I honestly I don't have a fucking clue. Like I started to actually notice Bitcoin in I think 2009. I was just reflecting on it after I was talking to you. I think in 2009, my buddy was like, "Man, this might be a thing." And like I say Bitcoin, but I just mean like crypto in general, I guess, because it probably was Bitcoin, but I don't know. And I was like, "Yeah, it sounds interesting, but I really don't fucking understand like how it actually works." And he kind of had a better hand on it. And like, I don't think he even ended up buying any either. But like, we kind of like watched it rise. And I don't know the history of it either. I should have looked before we even had this call, but like, I'm pretty sure it went up. And then there's times where it's been rocky, and now we're definitely up, right? Like that's the media right now is talking about that. So like, I first of all, what the fuck is Bitcoin? Like, what's cryptocurrency even mean? Because I understand fiat currencies and how that generally works. So no one's given me a good explanation. And I think the one thing you tagged me on was like, imagine you could disassemble one of your Rolexes, right? Yeah. And just fucking spread the parts everywhere, and the watch itself would be worth the same. And so that to me, I was like, fascinating, because I can actually imagine that. And you're cool, right? If we post this video after?
Yeah, for sure. That's fine.
So anybody watching this that doesn't know me, I've actually got a couple really cool watches that have appreciated significantly in the last little while. The one of them is the Rolex Hulk Submariner, which discontinued this year actually, and now is worth a lot more than what I paid for it, right? So I paid like, I think $19,000 for it. It's probably worth 30 today. And like, that's just really cool. And it was always a dream of mine to have the really high quality luxury item like that. And I love their brand and the brand recognition that you get from having them. So that's one of them. And then I've got the Omega Speedmaster that's now actually a discontinued version of their moon watch as well. And I've got on the way, like it will become very hard to get once they're out, but I've got a Snoopy Speedmaster coming, the 50th anniversary one. And I'm really into watches. I'm also really into real estate investing. I've actually just sold all my properties, so I've just gotten liquid and made quite a bit of cash on those sales using the BRRRR strategy and student rentals, Airbnbs, vendor take-back mortgages, some crazy shit. And so now, this is why I wanted to have this conversation, is like, I've just got some disposable money, and I'm either going to buy a bunch more Rolexes, which never lose value and in fact appreciate. Some of the models anyways, not all of them, but the ones that I would be getting my hands on do. Or I can look at listening to Tim, who's been actually talking about crypto and this type of stuff for as long as anybody else that I can remember in my personal life. Like, I think you've been talking about it longer than anybody else that I know of in the circle of people that I would be willing to listen to, right? Like, there's been all sorts of fucking nerds on the internet that I'm sure know a lot more than I do that have been talking about this for a long time. And I just can't wrap my head around it. So I would love, Tim, if you can just tell me what the fuck we're talking about. Like, what is this stuff?
Yeah, for sure. And just to give myself a quick intro, because there's a lot of people talking about it, especially today. I've been in the car business for about 15 years and working full time for 20. I studied politics at Western, graduated nearly 20 years ago. It's crazy. And my first week at school was September 11th. So I was sort of used to the world changing in a number of different ways. I watched, I had a computer from as early as I can remember, from a black and white screen, like Commodore 64, which I did some programming with, to 286, 386, 486, Pentium. And then, we've got Pentiums now, and then the internet, where it used to be dial up with a slow modem. And then it was dial up with a little bit faster modem. And then cell phones, same thing, watched the whole evolution of that. And I'm a tech nerd, I guess. So I always wanted the newest and greatest thing. And in 2016, a buddy sent me $5 in Bitcoin. And I just sort of didn't clue in at all. Like, I received it and I didn't know what had happened, and I just carried on with my day. And 5 months later, it had gone up to $50. And I was sitting in an airport waiting for a flight. And I looked at it and I thought, what was the mechanism that allowed this to go up in price 10x while I did nothing and didn't hear about how it happened or why? And that was a very quick case of me falling down the rabbit hole and not really paying attention to anything else since. like mid 2017. And 6 months later, I sent all the Bitcoin that I'd been able to accumulate to start doing a master's degree in digital currency. Because from the entire, like my entire life's history of looking at technology and wanting money or having money, I'm like, this is the thing. This is the ticket for a whole number of reasons. Oh, my lighting just went out. Does it look okay?
Yeah, now we're going to the dark side, bro. You're trying to
fine? Dun, dun, dun. Yeah. And that's when the story got interesting.
You guys are listening to this, go to YouTube right now, youtube.com/AdamJDMartin, and see what happens when you start speaking about the truth. Okay, they're fucking listening.
Down.
They're shutting you down, Tim. They're hacking you right now.
I think we're good. I think you can still see me, right?
I got you, man.
Okay, good.
It's kind of, I got a mood lighting though. I'm getting kind of
good.
Getting kind of into it.
So yeah, I mean, a lot of people's first exposure to the idea of Bitcoin were some dark topics. This was not at all deliberate, but there was something called the Silk Road, which was an online drug marketplace where you could send Bitcoin to buy drugs, potentially assassination. You could order an assassination on there, maybe. And the founder of that that marketplace got sent to prison for a double life sentence. So if that's when you heard about Bitcoin, you might have been right to ignore it. The next time, actually, I think I got these out of order, but was the Mt. Gox or the MT. Gox exchange being hacked. And that was the biggest exchange that people could buy Bitcoin on. And they would have bought there to send it to the Silk Road. And that stood for the Magic the Gathering exchange. So when we're talking nerdy, it was pretty nerdy.
Yeah.
And they were hacked, and a lot of folks lost all their money, all their Bitcoin at the time. So if you'd heard about it then, you were probably smart to say, hey,
which I did.
This is for foolish people. And there have been any number of hacks of exchanges, but the Bitcoin technology has never been hacked. And it's a very, very powerful decentralized ledger system that has no value except for the value that the users ascribe to it. Okay. So if you don't think it's valuable, no problem. The Bitcoin network does not care what you think. We're going to do our own thing. And it came about, one of the first things published in the Bitcoin blockchain was the chancellor on the brink of second bailout. So the chancellor of the exchequer is like our central bank, but in England. And so there's a lot of people that think the creator was from Britain. This is largely irrelevant in 2021. But it was sort of this response to the fact that if the government can just print as much money as they want, why are we paying tax? Why don't we have all the good stuff that we want? And you come to the sort of realization that the real reason is that some things in life are scarce. And if you have a watch audience, they will know this, because if you try to go buy a sports watch, sports Rolex, you can't just go and buy one.
No, you're buying from flippers.
You're buying from flippers and at an inflated price. So the stuff in life that is really high quality, family, love, trust, respect, is not dime a dozen and is not printed from the government. And the government doesn't tell you what it is and isn't. It's sort of for you to decide. And that's how most people come into Bitcoin in the early days. It was sort of a libertarian idealism form of money. But it didn't come out of nowhere. It was built on the back of about 10 different, university level cryptography, research, economics papers that had tried to create something like it, but they were struggling with the one thing that Bitcoin was able to create, which is, how do you make something scarce on the internet? If you take a photo of something and send it to somebody, they can make 1 million copies and send it to whoever they want.
Unlimited most of the things on the internet.
Yeah. And so that was the problem. And people call that the Byzantine generals problem. And the solution to it was proof of work. And you think like, oh yeah, money literally should be proof of work. Like, oh yeah, you did something for me and therefore I'm paying you. That should be it makes sense. So yeah, it was created, give or take, 10 years ago. And the value, it had no value for a long time. People could kind of mine it, which is the process by which it's created, to verify all the transactions. And the first transaction was a fellow named Laszlo, who put it out there on the message board saying, hey, I got a lot of these Bitcoins. Does somebody want to send me something for some? And so he ordered 2 pizzas. He got a friend to order 2 pizzas, and he sent that friend 10,000 Bitcoins for these 2 pizzas. And they've gone down in history as the most expensive pizzas ever. Today, something like $460 million in terms of the value.
That's it.
And again, the only thing backing up the value of Bitcoin is that the technology is superior and that everyone involved is financially committed. Those are the only factors.
So, like, before we get any further, walk me through distributed ledgers.
Yeah.
Like, so I kind of understand the idea that, like, okay, everybody's got the thing, so nobody has the thing, but like, what does that mean? Like, when I pay money, where does it go? And how does that actually affect the value of this thing that I can't have? Like, I can't touch it. So, like, I legit just don't understand it. So,
well,
you mentioned finite, so clearly there's only so many you can have. And so then if I flood money towards the finite thing, it obviously must become more valuable.
Yes.
So is that generally what we're looking at? Like, there's only so many, and then if I buy into the idea, then all of a sudden, if I want to buy it, the price has to go up because somebody wants to sell.
Well, it's that balance of supply and demand that is the key element. So when especially you're into real estate, you always know, like, there's these maxims we use as real estate investors, like, well, they're not making any more land, and people have said they haven't made a better house.
Yeah.
So these are reasons why there's scarcity of resources, and therefore, if more dollars are pursuing those resources, the equilibrium may shift. Well, with Bitcoin, because it's decentralized or distributed as ledger, anyone who's running the ledger, it's in their best interest not to allow the numbers to change. And that was one of the things that was established, very, very early on in the initial spec paper of this product, was that there will never be more than 21 million Bitcoin. And so if and the rate at which they're created is also known, that was decided in advance. And the speed, so trying to confusing two kind of concepts here. Every 4 years, the number's cut in half, but more are created every 10 minutes until up to that 21 million limit. So you as an investor know the rate at which they're coming out and the time at which that rate will change in advance.
Right. So I can't just flood the market with more Bitcoins, which hypothetically drops the value, which is what we have every day with inflation and all of that.
Correct.
Okay, I'm still following.
Yeah.
I got you.
So if you know the total in advance, how quickly they're coming, and when the rate of change will be, all you have to do is decide how much demand there is to establish a price or a price target or an expectation of an investment. And then when you realize that this is the first money that you can beam across the world instantly to anyone for any reason and no one can stop it, that's where it gets incredibly powerful. Because, we know that, not to try and get political, but if you empower women in third worlds, the economy goes up huge.
Yeah.
But there are countries that the US has said that you are not allowed to do business with. And I'm not saying I do business with these countries. It's just, it's complicated. Like, these are men, women, and children who live under a dictatorship that they have no opportunity to vote out of power, and that thousands of their countrymen would die if they tried to overthrow the government. But you can't try and help them in any way by doing commerce, by sending them money as a donation, maybe through like the Red Cross, maybe.
Yeah.
So that was one of these libertarian ideals of the 21st century, where the internet allows us to do everything with anybody. This is just one more way to do it.
Okay. So I follow all that. I guess as we're going through that idea, though, I start asking questions about, like, okay, so there's a limited supply. We know when it's coming. We know how fast it's going to grow, which means we can generally predict, within reason, what the stability of that currency is. That's all good. Now, what happens, though, when we see like a widespread adoption really fast? That's just a pump up in the price like anything else?
Yeah.
Okay. because that's what, like, I'm by no means at this point an early adopter. I don't even know if I'm a fast follower at this point.
Yeah.
So now I'm like the last guy at the party. Where do you see us be? And like, obviously there's no crystal ball, but like, are we at the point of widespread adoption? And so it's like, yeah, we're riding high, or are you of the opinion we're still at this point in the curve where anything can happen and we can actually go quite a bit up over time?
Yeah, I think that most analysts who are looking at the space have price targets in the hundreds of thousands. And we didn't preface the whole conversation. This is not investment advice. This isn't legal advice for one Bitcoin. Yeah.
So, and what's one today?
I mean, it changes quickly because it's the only market in the world that does trade 24/7, 365. It's something in the neighborhood of 59,000 Canadian or 45 US.
Dude, that is serious.
Oh yeah, it's serious.
Okay, so then if, let's say the smartest brains on this then are saying if a lot of people want this all of a sudden, say, in the news I saw MasterCard or something like that today accepting it. So if that's the case, like, how are they only forecasting a 2x? Because if we're at 50 and they're saying it could go to 100 or maybe even 200, that's a max of 4. What's up with that? Like, how come we wouldn't see it go even more?
That's a very good question. And there are people that have in their forecasts a
lot more. Okay.
Yeah. So I wish I could screen share or was better prepared.
Let me turn this on.
I don't know how quickly I could find the resources that I want to show you.
Well, that's all right. You can fill a little bit of time too by just telling me. I went to this thing. So you sent me a link. It's called, I don't even know how to say this, but it's like it's probably financial independence. So there you go, financial independence with Bitcoin. So FIwithBitcoin.com.
Yeah.
And I'll actually just share this because this is cool.
So this is my site. This is all me.
Okay. So you made this. All right.
Yeah, I made this. Okay, and I haven't published it or promoted it so that, it's just everything grows. To me, everything should grow organically. Like advertising is the price you pay for a shitty product. The word of mouth should spread everywhere. Now, Google and Facebook don't want that to be the case. So obviously you get not shadow banned, but you just don't get in people's faces unless you pay these days.
Yeah, that's a fact.
So this was one of those things where let's try and explain it because look, everyone's had some exposure to the ideas around Bitcoin, but like, here's 3 concrete steps.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, you should not be buying Bitcoin if you haven't, like, again, established what your net worth is and like what is going to be your asset allocation. Yeah. And most folks are saying like, this is still very speculative. So,
sure. I 100% bet it is. And by the way, if you guys have stuck around this long, not on this video, because I understand it's going to take a little bit of time, but I'm actually going to sign up somehow through whatever the process is, which hopefully Tim's down to share with me right now. Yeah. I'm going to sign up for some kind of account. And then I think what I'm hoping Tim's down to rally here. We'll come on, we'll do another video where we actually maybe talk about the different types of coins, like what is actually out there. And then I'll probably take a small chunk, like $5,000 or $10,000 Canadian, and we'll just buy some coins and then see what happens. And then hopefully we can do a follow-up video at some point, maybe in 3 months or 6 months or even in a year, and just say like, hey, what happened? And I think it'd be kind of cool just to see like, does any of this make any sense? Or, to say in a short term, like a year is a really short term, generally speaking, with most of the investments that I would be looking at anyways. So a year for me seems like a short term. So in a short term, what do we see, right? Because I see here on this little ticker, like Ethereum is what I understand to be like maybe number 2 in size. Like, cool, that's a 3% bump. Like that's actually a lot. And then Bitcoin here, I guess, is saying a 6% bump, which is crazy because when I think about like any other type of financial security, and like this probably isn't even relatable to a financial security, but like another stock or something, Bitcoin's got to be the blue chip at this point. And so 6% rise seems like a lot to me in any one period of time. So
yeah,
like I don't know. This is still a mystery for me. So I'd love to understand, like, what are the next steps? So I see there's a Bitcoin course here, which is actually really cool. I didn't go through this yet.
Yeah. So one of the things that I did 2 years ago was like the day that I graduated from my master's degree in digital currency was, and I'd done a public presentation about Bitcoin to a tech group here in Sarnia. And somebody tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, have you considered teaching?" And I sort of said, "No, not really." And within a week, I got hired at Lambton College here in their School of Business and International Studies to
That's
teach
cool.
digital tools, which was not at all about Bitcoin. It was literally like, here's kind of the basics of computers and the basics of the internet. And my first class was 40 Indian international students, and then my second class was esports, like video game for money students that our college has a program there. And so that was cool to get exposure to that educational system. And then I went to my deans and said, "Hey, like, let's do a Bitcoin course. Like, I think that this is something that we're missing out on in general, especially in the West." And one of the reasons that you haven't been forced to buy Bitcoin is that you make money when the real estate market goes up.
Yeah.
Like, the more volatility in real estate, the better for your business. Except
Yeah.
that for the average Canadian, their wages are stagnant and their housing is getting unaffordable.
100%.
Now, like, I find it, like, the people always crying that I'll never afford a house, and like I know literally 10 people that own 10 houses each, is, there's a bit of give and take here. Um, so I thought, like, we need to get people exposure to this, because in the West, our banking system works. And if you have money, it's not a problem. But everywhere else in the world, it's not the case. Like, we're talking a billion people in the West and 7 billion people that are unbanked, underbanked, or don't have stable currency.
Yeah.
So I don't want to say that Bitcoin's saving the world, but it's just providing some alternatives we never had before to participate.
That's awesome. So
So
I just enrolled in your course here. How do you actually go about, like, what are the next steps? Like, how do
yeah,
you actually set up an account? How do you, is this something like you have a login, and then I keep hearing the term wallet all the time, so I
yeah,
don't know what that means.
yeah.
So how do I get a wallet? Is that's where everything's stored and it's somehow magically secure?
Yes. So there's two different schools of thought. One is that most people are too lazy or unmotivated to figure out why Bitcoin is so important and special, and all they want is price exposure. They want to make money if it goes up and have their downside risk too. So there's what are called custodial services, where they hold your Bitcoin for you and potentially do a better job of securing it than you can, because there are some pitfalls. There's some opportunities to lose your money.
Right.
Or the non-custodial approach, which is by far the cooler and like more important and special thing that Bitcoin allows that nothing else has ever done, which is to get a wallet and receive Bitcoin to that wallet and then protect that wallet potentially with your life or whatever it needs to be done. There's all, like, if you can think of a tactical security scenario, like operational security or OPSEC, if
Yeah.
you can think of a scenario that can play out, a Bitcoiner has thought of that scenario to the nth degree. There's a lot of firearms enthusiasts who are into Bitcoin, again, because the libertarian bent and that kind of thing. So there's a few, like, first play with a little bit of money so that that even if I can't help you to stop screwing up, you're still fine. And then ramp up your security as you need to based on how much is at stake.
Yeah.
But people say plan for 10 times the amount you buy, because Bitcoin has a nasty history of going 10 times higher than everyone expected.
That's awesome. So how do I do that? How do I start a
So
wallet? Or
first you got to buy some, I would say. So,
how do you do
or there'd be two ways. One is that I could send you some right now if you just get a wallet. So I would get on your phone Blue Wallet.
Blue
I'll show you.
Wallet?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna download this right now, because honestly, I think this is so cool, and like I literally don't even know.
Where are we? Where's my camera?
Blue Wallet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Looks like 3 cards with
Yeah,
wallet in the name.
got it. Okay, I got the wallet.
So now you want to create a Bitcoin wallet. And it may ask you to write down a series of 12 words,
Okay.
and you got to write those down.
Yeah, and that's going to be, that's like security.
It's not, that's the thing. It's not just the password. It is the address. It is your Bitcoin. Those words fall into the wrong hands. That's your Bitcoin. But conversely, from an OPSEC perspective, if you find a way to memorize those 12 words and you put $1 million on that account, you can throw your phone away, parachute into a foreign country, remember the 12 words, and get access to the Bitcoin.
And you're good to go.
Yeah.
Dude, that's crazy. And so, okay. So that's really, all right. Fuck me. Okay. So who's Blue Wallet? What are these guys doing?
Great question. So this, you're now putting your faith in the fact that, are you Android or Apple?
Apple.
Okay. So you're putting your faith in Steve Jobs, that your phone is secure.
Yeah.
And Blue Wallet, that Blue Wallet's technology is secure.
Yes.
I couldn't tell you whether it was or it wasn't, but everyone I speak to says they're trustworthy.
Okay. So so actually right away too, when I go to look at this, it says like my first wallet or whatever.
Yeah.
This is actually cool. I love doing this on here because I think there's all sorts of questions here to be asked. Like, so
don't show your words. That's
no. All
right. I can't quite
Adam
see.
is cool.
And,
God
damn. Yeah. So the name is Adam is cool, and you can pick a Bitcoin.
No, that's my 12 words. Adam is cool, and the rest.
Oh yeah. I got you.
Okay, here we go. So we got different types of wallets now. So we got Bitcoin, we got Lightning, we got Vault.
Yeah. So like they're being very fair in how they're describing those. That's what it says on the package. Lightning is a technology where we won't be able to cover today. It's extremely important, but it's not relevant for today's combo. The Vault is if you are going to put $1 million in, don't just use a wallet, use a Vault. And then the Bitcoin's the Bitcoin.
And okay, true. And so is Bitcoin the simplest option if somebody was going to put like 2, 3? I assume there's fractional. You can't just.
Yeah, absolutely. So Bitcoin, that's another fundamental. So Bitcoin is divisible down to 100 million units, like cents to dollars, or pennies, whatever.
Fucking lot.
And those cents or change is Satoshis or sats. Satoshi is the name of the founder. And that's actually the currency of the protocol. It's not Bitcoins. It's when you have 100 million. That's when you have a Bitcoin.
Right.
Let me know when we get in the weeds here, and then we can just slow down.
No, that all makes sense. So 1/100th of a million is one sat. One out of 100 million is one sat.
Correct.
Okay, and so I can just that's how I purchase the units, is in sats.
This is a great question, or like, again, we're getting into sticking points here. So the standard in the protocol is what's defined. The interface is up to you. So if you wanted to start a Bitcoin company today, you can make any decision you want. And if you get users and have enough money, that's fine. So there's this debate as whether it should be decimal place, 0.00001 Bitcoin, or whether that should be defined as one sat.
Right. I would struggle to see how that would change.
It doesn't. It's just that people have what's called unit bias. So one of the world's greatest investors, Warren Buffett, his company, Berkshire Hathaway, they have never done a stock split. And one share, I don't know what it is today, 350,000. And you can't buy fractional shares unless you're dealing with some newfangled, finance company.
Yeah, some kind of crazy fucking product.
So Warren Buffett says, I don't want short-term investors. I want people who are willing to make a big commitment. And that's why that exists. But for the rest of us, mere mortals, we're going to buy a fraction of a Bitcoin to get started. And again, from an investment strategy, once you've determined, say it's 1% you're targeting, or for you, it's, creating some content, you're going to put in 10K or 5K, then dollar cost average the rest, just like any other investment. I can't tell you if Bitcoin is going up or down today, tomorrow. My belief is that in the long term, there's a steady rising tide.
Yeah, that's interesting. Also, this fucking thing, when I hit create there, just gave me 12 random words. Like you didn't even get to pick your words.
No, no, you don't. So those words represent 12 words out of a dictionary, I believe, of 2,050, 52 words ish. So when you think of trying to pick 649,
Yeah,
right?
no, it's impossible.
Never going to happen. So to guess 12 in order out of 2,000,
the
we're
combination
talking,
would be outrageous.
yeah, more chances than every grain of sand on every planet. If every planet was the Earth, as far as we can see, eyes can see, it's impossible.
Yeah, that's insane.
If you want to have your mind blown, they don't even check to see if your wallet's been used by someone else before.
Oh,
they don't have to.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. Yeah, that's actually crazy. So so it's like a mnemonic, phrase that has all of this.
I mean, they call it mnemonic. It doesn't seem that easy to remember.
It doesn't seem too mnemonic to me. But,
yeah.
Like actually, here's a cool book for anybody that made it this far. Moonwalking with Einstein. This is actually in a really elegant book that talks about, essentially remembering mnemonic phrases like this and using your memory to just recall, crazy amounts of words or data or places. It's actually really cool. Moonwalking with Einstein. What happens if I forget all this stuff?
So as long as you don't drop your phone in the toilet, it'll always be on the phone.
It's there. And then, okay.
And if you write it down or memorize it or put it into, like, people will hammer them into a sheet of steel so that if their house burns down, they'll still have some chance of recovering it.
Right.
Then you're fine.
Because if you lose this and end other access, you're game over. You're done.
Yeah.
I just heard about some guy getting arrested and he's not giving up the code.
Yeah.
And so that there's just no way they're not giving it up. Eh?
Yeah. People are saying, oh, I lost my Bitcoin in a boating accident, so that there's like plausible deniability to pay tax, to not pay tax. Like the
That's
regulatory
the firearms line when the government comes for your firearms. Oh, boating accident.
Yeah, they were stolen.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, exactly. Mine keeps showing up on the fucking thing, but okay. So I think I understand more than what I did earlier today. I definitely know more now how to do it. So if I create this thing, I write these words down, I create this wallet here, that will give me the power to buy one or no?
No. So that'll give you the power to receive and custody yourself, where you don't have to ask anyone permission and you can do whatever you want with it at that point.
Okay.
So to buy it, you need to do the steps on that Fi with Bitcoin, getting started with Bitcoin in Canada. Those are two of the more reputable exchanges. Okay. When you leave your coins on an exchange, you're exposed to what's called counterparty risk. You're trusting that they're going to deliver on those Bitcoin when you ask them to.
Right.
And there is example after example of example that isn't the case. They either go bankrupt, they just are out and outright fraud, or whatever.
Yeah.
So folks don't recommend it. Now, these guys are so far so good. They're excellent. I've used them every day for years.
And that's Shakepay and Newton?
Newton, yeah. And we use them for two different reasons. Shakepay is like a game. It's like almost gamification of money, or a gamification of attention, by which when you're starting out and you're young and you don't have a ton of dough, if you can scrape together $100, not only do you get 30 free, but you also then get the ability to shake your phone. Like it sounds silly, but literally shake your phone logged into the app, and they will give you some sats, some Satoshis, a fraction of a Bitcoin.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Now we keep using the word Bitcoin. So is that really what we mean here? Like, are we only talking about Bitcoin so far?
So far, yeah.
Okay. And so any of these other things though, because like as I'm watching your ticker here on the website, like there's like, obviously tons of these different ones. So even let's talk about Ethereum. Is that a totally, there's no, it's a different format than Newton or Shakepay?
So Newton and Shakepay are both exchanges, and
Okay,
there
TSX.
are I think in the neighborhood of 10,000 exchanges all over the world, and some sell some coins and others sell others, and for any different number of reasons. Some, like, I'm conflicted about having the top 10 up there because I don't believe in anything other than the first one or two. And this is the same advice I gave to Jeff 3 years ago, 4 years ago. He's like, what should I buy? He's throwing out these names. And I'm like, other than the first two, I honestly am not sure I would ever suggest any of them. Because let me ask you, what internet do you use?
Probably Rogers.
No, you use the internet.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes, there's one fucking internet.
There's one internet. And we went through an evolution of there being AOL, CompuServe, and other competing products like Betamax and things like that that were never a thing.
Yep.
I'm willing to accept that may not be exactly the case with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But Bitcoin is sure going to eat a lot of it.
Well, and there's people out there like Mark Andreessen that are just gonna kick ass. So
yeah, software is eating the world.
So yes.
Yeah.
So okay, that's really fascinating. Do I store any other coin in this same wallet that I just started?
That's a good question. I don't think so. I would triple check, but I don't believe they support anything other than Bitcoin.
Okay.
And so this is
where do you hold your other coin, or do you not hold anything other than Bitcoin?
I have a small percentage of my net worth and small percentage of my cryptocurrency in Ethereum.
Yeah.
Only because there is so much money there and so much innovation going on that I can't help but think that something might happen I can't anticipate. But let me tell you, as an investment, it's a dumpster fire. The protocol, they're about to change the entire protocol. It's something that's never been tried before.
And this is Ethereum?
Yeah. With how many hundreds of millions of dollars at stake, they're about to go to square wheels rather than round is almost a fair analogy.
And so what's the downside or upside of doing that? Like if it goes wrong, the whole thing goes bust and we don't know how to get it back. And if it goes right, why would we take that risk?
Good question. So if it goes wrong, the perceived value of the currency falls instantly from whatever to whatever I can't anticipate. A number of things can happen, which is that they can just go back to the old way. And as long as people are willing to go along with that, the values eventually come back. It's like Boeing, right? 737s crash. And it's like, holy shit, isn't that the plane?
Yeah.
It's literally supposed to be the plane for everywhere in the world for medium range. And then now it isn't, and it's shut down. But then people's faith comes back. So there's an exit valve. There's a chance that we can put it all back. The reason we're doing it is because the limiting factor of Bitcoin and blockchain in general is the throughput. So just like with bandwidth, you and I are doing a high res video and audio call while millions of other people are at the same time.
Yeah, crazy.
Which literally was impossible 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So the throughput of Bitcoin right now is in the neighborhood of 7 to 10 transactions a second. That is not nearly enough.
That's nothing.
That's nothing.
Yeah.
So with Ethereum, it's more. And with what they're proposing to do, it will be more again. Yet you start to run up against some physical limitations of how physics works. What is the speed of light? Because we're going to need it, as much of it as we can get.
Is that what's holding us back? Is it hardware problems that we're running into, or so what can they possibly change about the software? Is it the way it works as an actual algorithm, or how does this happen?
It's pushing computer science, human trust, and game theory to the absolute brink. Because you can try to attack these networks if you have a faster computer, theoretically, just to really make it simple. And so if enough people get it in their mind that they want to attack these networks, more so than the people that want to defend them, you can overrun the network, period.
Yeah.
And so Bitcoin's defense system in my opinion, and many other early Bitcoiners' opinion, is the only system that will work. It's a might is right, and we have more computer power than you do, period.
Just
Nothing
based on the based sheerly on the adoption of it already, you mean?
Not only that, no. Based on the game theoretical thermodynamic properties of space, time, and fucking energy. Like it's complicated, but basically you can't go back in time yet. So therefore we win.
That's fascinating. Okay.
And basically with the opposite, or not the opposite, but what Ethereum proposes is called proof of stake rather than proof of work. So proof of work, we can agree, is easy to understand. You do work for me. There's proof of it. Therefore you get paid.
Yeah.
Proof of stake is somehow like, well, we both have a lot on the line, right? So let's not fuck it up.
Right.
Sorry, if you want to bleep me out because I'm ruining your monetization.
No, don't worry. We're not monetized. And I swear all the time. So I'm not planning on it.
So yeah, like we both have a lot at stake. So therefore we're not going to cheat. Well, I still might cheat if somebody shows me a bigger stake.
Yeah, if I can convince you that my risk is higher than it actually is, then all of a sudden you might do something you otherwise wouldn't have.
Yeah.
Had we actually had that be disclosed. So I don't understand how the system works, but just that as a theory, like, I don't know if me telling you that I've got the same risk actually makes sense, because this is how I win in real estate too, right? Is I actually have information asymmetry. I just know more than what most people would know.
Yeah.
And that gives me every advantage I need to, where my dollar is actually worth more than your dollar.
Yes.
Right. Because I just know more about what I'm doing with that single dollar. And so therefore it has more inherent value.
Yeah.
So
if you know the price of housing is going to double tomorrow, you can afford to pay more today.
Absolutely. I'll pay whatever, right? Under that double, of course.
So the theory behind the proof of stake is that we all stake the same amount. But like you said, that amount is valuable in different ways. It may represent everything you have, and it may represent a drop in my bucket. And I'll bully you or do whatever. And it's fascinating because the guy that invented Ethereum was like a 22-year-old engineering dropout from Waterloo. And he should win the highest prize in computer science, the Turing Award, for his creation. There is no doubt. It is exceptionally important and special what he's done, but it's not the money of the future. It's at best the world computer. And it's extremely slow and clunky and not quite right yet, but he's pushing some boundaries that are really insane. And that's why I'm willing to, like, I think it was in the neighborhood of $5,000 that I have, cash invested. It's nothing.
Yeah. So how do you hold that one? Do you use one of those?
So I use a custodial product for that, because to just move it today, you have to pay $100 just to move it.
Right.
Because it's congested. Even though it's more powerful, it's still full. Like it's the Don Valley Parkway at 5 o'clock on a game or on a night when the Raptors are playing and the Jays are playing and there's a concert.
So it doesn't matter if it's a 10-lane highway. It
doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah. So well, dude, 7 transactions per second is like, I can do 7 transactions, but like, fuck.
Your wholesalers better be doing 7 transactions a second or else.
But seriously, there's got to be, because Matt and I actually did a little software company, and I had a little bit of a look behind the scenes at like how code works and how you can make things come together. And like, I swear to God, it's so unfathomable what these guys can do for like the most basic website, never mind rethinking computing or currency.
Yeah.
So like,
it's important what has been accomplished, but they're both a long ways. So that's where these ideas or these hypotheses around what money is really come into play. So there's 3 uses of money that people talk about: store of value.
Yeah.
That money is a time machine. You put away your energy today for deployment in the future.
Yeah.
Number 2, means of exchange, that we got to use it to spend because we don't all want the same thing at the same time.
Yeah.
The theory that barter was ever real, probably not a widespread economic system. The double coincidence of wants. You have to want what I want, and I have to want what you want. We buy and sell together twice.
Yeah.
Not going to happen that often. And finally, the third use case is unit of account. And there is no global unit of account. The closest thing we have is the petrodollar, the world reserve currency, the US dollar. But that is, I mean, Donald Trump was pushing the stick hard into the ground. Like, it was looking like we were gonna, you know, who knows what was going to happen. It was basically the theory. And for the next 50 years, all bets are off. China, India, Brazil, anybody.
Yeah, all of the BRIC countries, in my opinion, and like just all of that is just so uncertain to me. And like, if you ever tried to actually play the geopolitical fortune telling game, like I think you would just your head would explode. So like, my head's already near exploding when I think about whatever this is. So
Sure.
I think that's why I'm really just interested in doing an experiment here. Like, I've got a decent amount of just liquidity, and the way I see it, I'm either going to go buy another watch, which, you know, you can only have so many watches until you've got too many watches. And then, you know, or I'll spend it on other dumb stuff like, you know, guns and cars. So like, I've already got the car, the guns, the watches, and now it's time to have a little bit of fun. And I really thought this would be a cool process to just unpack this a little bit and understand a bit more like where you're coming from. So what I want to do is I'm actually going to do this course that you have here on your website.
Don't get your hopes up or all the stuff that exists there is in a very nascent state because, again, I'm pulled in so many directions. So to the extent that all that course is, and why it's the public Bitcoin course, and I've learned so much from following you and Matt and Jeff and the whole crew. That public course is simply a curated list of YouTube videos that anyone can watch for free.
I love it.
Curating the list has value.
For sure.
So it'll take you through, there's the Hidden Secrets of Money, which is like basically a commercial for a gold dealer, but he does not really stray too far from the actual facts. I don't come to the conclusion by gold. I come to the conclusion by Bitcoin.
Right.
And then also 4 documentaries about Bitcoin that help basically explain some of the stuff that I've explained. It's just there's no interactive element.
Yeah.
The next week's goal is 4 courses: a free course, a paid course, and a private course. Cool. So, you know, same business model, and go from there and see what happens with that, because I don't know where you're coming from until you ask me the questions, like you or anyone else. So that's how I've sort of structured it.
Yeah, that's sweet, man. I'll do the whole thing and just see where it goes. And then I'm hoping, if you're down, let's shoot another video like this where we can talk a little bit more about, like, you know, maybe some of your strategies or how you decided to play with it or whatever, where you're housing it, how it's been going. And then I'll sign up and do everything on my end so that I can actually buy it, and then I'll buy some and we can like just see what happens. I don't know. It sounds like fun to me.
Absolutely.
So, you know, the way I kind of look at this too is like, probably still pretty speculative in terms of like, if you needed to sell tomorrow, would it be more or less money? That to me is always, though, a bad way to make any financial decision. So the way I look at this is like, you know, provided this is here to stay, I really don't see how it can become less valuable. And so that's where I think about all of my experience and the long history of real estate sales that I've looked at a lot of the history of real estate in our market, in adjacent markets, in Ontario, everywhere. Like, it's very easy to see the patterns in real estate. And this, to me, it seems like it's not quite as easy as just throwing the adage like, well, everybody needs a house, but like everybody kind of does need some form of currency, right? Like, we actually do need to be able to trade. Like, there's just no way, like, unless there's like some crazy ass societal shift, which I can't see happening, like people will continue to trade goods and services for something, right? And like that something will have value. And so generally speaking, this sounds like something that really over a long period of time probably just gets more valuable. like based on the things you've told me today, like, okay, we know the rate that it's increasing at. It's really hard to like double the supply or something like that in the way that, we've seen some crazy shit going on with the government lately.
Oh yeah.
Look at mortgages right now, dude. Mortgages right now
Do
are
they pay me to buy a house yet?
almost. So, like we're getting there. In Europe, you can get 0% mortgages. You can get negative percent mortgages. Here, though, with a very strong financial system, in my opinion, we're still looking at crazy decisions where mortgages now are 1.6, 1.4, sometimes a little bit lower.
Mm-hmm.
And like, how does that work? Like, it doesn't work, I don't think, in the long term. And so the only possibilities here are that like eventually you're going to have to raise that rate, and that will detract from the affordability of the average Canadian who got themselves into a position where they can no longer afford that asset. They're going to sell, prices are going to go down, the middle class is going to get hurt, and people like me are certainly not. We're going to actually make a lot of money because we're going to buy houses when it's falling, and then we're going to do strategic renovations to them and increase their value. And when the timing is right, because we choose when is right, because we have liquidity and we have the luxury of being able to choose, we'll sell again when it's high. And like, that's just how this works. Like, to me, that's just how it will always work. But it's a long-term approach where you're not necessarily having to make decisions because of liquidity and stuff. So that, to me, Bitcoin, I think that's why I'm thinking about it now, is like, I've got the cash. I don't really have a great excuse for it. So I will probably squander it somewhere. And so I might as well play a game, right? And just kind of like, okay, if I play this as a game, I'm going to write this off mentally. Okay. I'm going to write off 5 or 10, whatever we want to play with here, and just see what happens. It was a fun experiment. And then I'm hoping we can do some really cool videos, or maybe we turn around and buy a Rolex that'll appreciate 50% or 100% in a year just from Bitcoin proceeds. Right. Mm-hmm. Or turn around and double the portfolio or whatever, and then sit and just don't care about it. Right. So I wonder too, there's got to be like little day traders that sit around staring at this stuff, but I can't.
Here's the thing. Like we were saying with Facebook and Google about you not seeing something unless I pay to put it in your face.
Yeah.
The segmentation of the entire world for every piece of content, theme, topic, whatever category is so great that when you start looking at Bitcoin, you turn on a fire hose of information of extremely reputable people who are dealing in this space. Just this week, Elon Musk bought $1.5 billion of Bitcoin. MasterCard.
When I start seeing this stuff, this is where I'm like, okay, yeah, I mean, this adds the validity to me, the credibility to me, where like now I'm like, yeah, I'm willing to play with a small piece of my pie, because I'm not going to miss it if it goes crazy and we lose it all. But if it 10x's or something crazy, like, wow, that was amazing, right? Yeah. Like something I didn't have to really work for. And I think that's probably what these things needed, right? Was somebody to really step in and put a face on it, because yeah, I think we are relatively censored. Like, I actually don't think you're getting as much information as fast as it's available as possible, just because there are other interests at play, right? Like no matter what they say, like Facebook and Google will definitely show you what's more rewarding for them than what's not. Like, why? Every fucking business in the world runs like that. Why wouldn't they? Like, that's literally just how it works.
Yeah. So, enough to keep coming back.
Yeah, of course. So, dude, I'm pretty interested in this, and man, it sounds like you've done your homework and just like have a really cool handle on this. So I really appreciated you taking the time today to talk to me about it.
No, my pleasure. I appreciate you getting the opportunity to talk about it, because my girlfriend's sick of hearing about it. And I literally spend 4 hours a day researching on it and creating information and products and things like that. So it's unfortunate that sometimes it takes the world waking up to get the attention an idea deserves, but that happens countless times. So it's what it is.
Dude, yeah, absolutely, man. Look at Nikola Tesla, man. Like, look at anybody, right? This all took a long time to put together. So,
Yeah.
yeah, dude, whenever you want to as well, like, I'm down to talk about this because I am super genuinely interested in just understanding more about this topic. So, yeah, I will absolutely go through all the videos you curated, and then hopefully I can bring better questions for you as well too. Because like I intentionally did zero research before this. Like I read the news kind of every day. Like right before I go to bed, it's probably a horrible habit, but I check in on just like world and business news, and so I have been watching from afar. But like legit, I tried one time to really understand what a distributed ledger meant, and I was like, "Fuck me!" Like this is a little bit out of my purview. And then I've left it alone since then. And in that time, I've built a decent real estate business, and then I built my portfolio and sold. So like I did a lot of financial things that I just hadn't done when I first started hearing. And I think I said 2009, but maybe it was later than that. Like maybe it was whenever Bitcoin was first kind of happening is when we first were hearing about it. So if that was 2011, then it was probably around, I just remember I was in high school. So like, that's when it happened. And, I've left it alone since then. But since then, too, I've learned a lot about how to grow my money and how to think more like you should if you want to hold on to large quantities of money. So,
I'm not like when I have this Buy with Bitcoin website, I'm not proposing the Michael Rosehart solution of coupons till you're rich. Like what you have done is unbelievable, greater than any idea that I could have ever had in terms of the level of success. So what you've created in terms of a cash shovel is what you want to do. So you've done things in the right order, in my opinion. And if that meant having to ignore Bitcoin because you had this thriving business to grow, good for you. There's nobody can take that away, because whether you even think about Bitcoin ever again probably doesn't matter to your overall enjoyment of life and level of success. But to me, it's the most fascinating invention ever created.
Well, it's crazy.
Yeah, it captivated me.